You're listening to the FamVestor podcast. If you're looking to raise your family with intention, gain financial independence, and live a life of true freedom, you're in the right place. Join us as we explore together how to create thriving families, because strong families are the cornerstone for a world at peace.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the FamVestor podcast. I am your host, Sunmarie Burns.
And I am your co-host, Sunny Burns.
And today, our topic is going to be boldness, living boldly. What does that mean? How can you put that into action in your life? And what kind of impact does it have on your thinking and your day-to-day decisions? So we're going to go into that. We're going to explore it. We're going to share some of our experiences with boldness and hopefully have an interesting story here.
Yeah, when I was, little, I was a very shy kid. I kind of just wanted to squeak by unnoticed, didn't want to be questioned. I don't know, I just felt like I didn't have a lot to say, and because of that, I didn't really know who I was, where I was, and what I was all about. So I felt like, I had my 8th grade yearbook here, actually. And what's interesting about this is that if you flip to the celebrities page, where is it? Under the category of shyest kid in 8th grade, there's my picture.
So you were nominated as a celebrity of shyness.
Shyness, yes. Not something I was proud of, per se.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I know I'm an introvert, and I don't mind that. I think there's a lot of goodness that comes with it, and I like that about me. I can just be alone with myself and create a ton of great things. But, anyway, just saying, I grew up very shy, so it was, for me, being bold was something I didn't really kind of get until later in life, and the importance of it, and the importance of kind of making a mark, making a statement, having people remember you because you were bold rather than just kind of fading into the background. And I've had so many experiences, in my recent adult life of how boldness has helped me, helped me get promotions at work, helped me excel at life, helped me get recognized, and just helped me pursue my dreams,
Helped you find a wife.
Helped me find a wife. What bold move is that? Oh, is that, I don't know if that was boldness. It was more just creativity. But I guess it is kind of bold, right? I went to a bakery called Sunmarie Bakery, very close to Sunmarie's name. Is that what you were thinking of?
No, but that's
okay.
A good story.
Okay, well, anyway, I went to the bakery, and we used to frequent, and my family always went to this bakery. It was in Fort Lee, New Jersey. It's still there, and we just loved the bread, and it's like super good Asian bread. Anyway, I was like, oh, Sunmarie Bakery. I know a Sunmarie. Let me give her a piece of bread. But it was really just a kind act, or I thought it would be fun.
It was fun, it was thoughtful, and it made you stand out for sure. Actually, the instance I was thinking of in respect to boldness is, boldness can be something you do, but it can also be a way that you present yourself, right? How you carry yourself, your posture, your demeanor. And what I meant was, when I first met you, you carried yourself very confidently. And that was very bold. Like, it was very obvious just the way you walked, that you were comfortable with who you were, and it gave off the image of someone who's bold and proud of who they are. And that's something for me that I always respected and wanted to kind of work on even in myself, because I know I have heard for years I have terrible posture, and I know for a fact it's still true. And it really is interesting when you are exploring the topic of boldness, how you might be doing a very bold act, but if your posture is not carrying you with confidence, it can send a completely different message. That maybe you're insecure, or you're trying something that's not really comfortable to you. And body language gives away a lot about how you're feeling inside. And sometimes it's not even how you actually feel. It's just you're not thinking about how you're presenting yourself. You might hunch your shoulders over, or, not stand tall when you walk. And those send messages saying, I'm timid, or I'm shy, or I'm insecure in this situation. So that's what I was referring to actually when I first met you, was very, very good posture.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like, we probably met when I was like 19, 20 years old. And at that point, a lot of those insecurities I had when I was younger, I started to kind of clarify and really gain a sense of who I was or who I wanted to be, and started just working on myself and working on those insecurities and overcoming them. Things I'm thinking about was, again, that shyness and not being able to talk to people. I started working at Taco Bell. I think I've shared this story on the podcast before, but really I loved that job because, I was a very shy kid, but I was put in this cashier position where every day I just had to say the same thing, welcome to Taco Bell, can I take your order? But just that little tiny responsibility or forced communication with another human being just kind of brought me out of my shell. And it was a means for me to make some money. But what I really loved about that job, other than the $8 worth of free food I got on my lunch breaks, which I really loved, and after 6 months of working there, I loved Taco Bell as much as I did from day one. But it was that growing and challenging myself to grow that communication. And really, I wasn't just clocked in and just ready to clock out. I was there in the moment, really trying to hone that craft of appreciating the customer and really communicating with them. It wasn't just a flat, hello, welcome to Taco Bell. I really tried to make them feel appreciated, make them know that I was present to their ordering. It sounds silly to me saying it right now, but I felt like I grew so much from the 6 months of working there. And then shortly after, I joined my youth ministry at a church and started becoming a staff leader for, as a senior in high school, a staff leader for all these younger middle schoolers, and just dealing with them and communicating with them, I felt like gave me so much, gave me a lot of confidence. And just started growing from there. And, I was chubby growing up, and that had some insecurities there too. So just, playing sports and getting more into running and some kind of physical activity and fitness, and just having the fitness in myself and good body image, I felt like gave me a whole ton of confidence as well. And, started developing a very straight posture, as you're kind of alluding to with my presence. And just all those kind of things leading up to a better image of myself, and allowing it to be easier to be more bold.
Right. And what I hear too in your story is that a lot of this is intentional decisions to make a change in something that you're not completely satisfied with. And not just saying, well, this is just what I am, I guess I'm going to be this way forever, but actually, taking charge and choosing to make a change and to challenge yourself to overcome these insecurities or these things that are essentially holding you back.
Right.
Which is a definition of boldness just right there. And I really respect that. I think that really goes a long way when you're able to challenge the areas you're most uncomfortable with in your life and in yourself, and just face them in the mirror and say, I'm going to make a change here. With your job, I could share a similar story. One of my first jobs was I did credit and collections. And all my life growing up, I dreaded answering the telephone. My parents would always say, go answer the telephone. I hated it. I was like gripped with fear when I had to go pick it up and talk to whoever it was calling, maybe some, bill collector or, whoever's on the other end. And I hated doing that. I also hated calling people unless it was purely a friendship call. And there I was getting one of my first jobs in college as a credit and collection person, where I had to call people every day. I think I had to call a minimum of 35 people a day. And shake them down for money. Basically, I'm the person they don't want to talk to. And that really helped me overcome my immense fear of telephone conversations. It was really quite crippling until I got that job. And I'm like, well, I guess I better get used to this, because this is what I'm doing now, And so putting myself in that situation helped me overcome.
Yeah, and similar to what you're saying there, when I was, episode 19 of the podcast talks about how I used to buy and sell cars. And for me too, that fear of calling someone was so crippling to me. But literally when I was first starting to call Craigslist ads about cars and trying to purchase them, I would write word for word a script just because I was so nervous and knew I was gonna like get hung up when trying to say, hey, I want to buy your car, and I need to know like exactly what I was gonna ask, all the questions I had to write out, and but doing that eventually after the 100th car I call, I start to gain that confidence. And so it's really just what we're talking about here is just challenging yourself and challenge yourself to develop this skill set of I don't know. Yeah, just being a better person, being more confident in what you're doing.
Right. Like anything you do in life, the more and more you practice it, the better and better you get.
But to accelerate that, you want to get out of the comfort zone. That's where all that growth is happening. So I want to circle back to that Taco Bell job. Previously, I was 17 when I got that job. And previously, I had been, applying for jobs everywhere. But I was applying online. And, because that was easy and safe for me to do, just fill out the online applications. But they went nowhere. I applied to like 10 jobs. And then it was only until, and I actually, went to Taco Bell with my dad. And I think he, encouraged me, or he actually went up to the manager and was like, hey, my son's looking for a job. Do you have anything? And it was that action that actually led to me getting the job, like the actual face-to-face interaction, that uncomfortable action of speaking to someone face to face rather than submitting an application online. And just takes that kind of boldness to get what you want, or get to have achieved getting that job for me. And I think about my sister, Joy, who's so good at getting jobs, but I think it's because she's so bold. She'll just walk into a place, no appointments, and just ask. And she's so good at getting jobs. I feel like she she gets them whenever she wants. And then I have friends who go years and years. They graduated college and they still have no job. And it's been several years since. But I think it's just taking action, being bold, putting yourself out there,
doing what not everybody else does, and that sets you apart.
Right.
And that's huge, for making a mark on someone's memory, is just setting yourself apart somehow.
Right.
Whether you're that person who actually walked in the door and spoke to them and that's why they hired you, or you just had something charismatic about you that made you stand out. Right.
Yeah, and I can recall so many times at work, I felt like promoted early on just because some bold action I took accelerated me, or put me in the minds of my supervisors. And that was just a matter of just standing out some way or another. Right now, for those viewers who are watching, I have a mustache on, and I got so many comments. Okay, it was No Shave November, and then the last couple of years I've been shaving everything but my mustache then I do that for like a week or two. Sunmarie doesn't like it, but I don't know, it's just kind of a fun thing, and people notice, and I have fun playing with people. They're like, why are you wearing a mustache, or where'd that mustache come from? Because it was like hidden behind a beard previously. So it's kind of fun. I have fun with it, but it's another way that like people notice. And my boss's boss, who I used to work for, always told me, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And I really think that's so important. Like I go into, there's 6,000 people that I work in the installation I work at, and I'd say a lot, not famous or anything, but proportionate to the other 6,000 people, I'm pretty well known in my post, in my installation. And that's because, I'm bold. I've been taking a lot of bold actions at work. There was a assignment where for 6 months they were looking for someone to be kind of the assistant to the director of the whole base. And I kept going back and forth. There was one requirement that really was putting a stop to me, where you have to wear a suit every single day for 6 months. And for me, that was like torture.
That was the thing that had him grappling over whether to take the promotion or not.
There's this quote that goes, a tie is just a noose that's an inverted noose upside down or something. I'm like, I believe that. I don't want to wear that noose. But, it was just like, be bold, take that action, take that initiative, and work hard for 6 months, and I did. I worked really hard, but I was able to, in that position, send emails to the whole 6,000 workforce, and I would take every advantage to stand out. And so I sent a lot of emails, and people started to recognize my names. I would, go along with the director, and it was challenging myself. I hated. Part of it was I hated wearing suits because I felt like I didn't know how to wear suits well and dress well. So it was challenging myself to dress well. And I also didn't really own any suits at that point. So what I ended up doing was just buying 2 pairs of suits for that whole 6 months. I only had 2 suits. I rotated on and off. Every other day I wore a different suit. I had a gray suit and I had a navy suit. And I don't think anyone ever caught on that I only owned 2 suits. But that's how I was able to do it frugally. And I bought those. They were like $600 suits that I found on slickdeals.net, where I get all my great deals. And for like $100. And they're like $600 great suits. But just having that boldness, allowed me to get a 6-figure job right after that 6 months kind of happened. And I know if I didn't challenge myself to overcome those fears of wearing a suit and looking good and needing to talk to higher management and all the other workers.
It can be very intimidating.
It is, yeah, especially a shy kid like me, kind of doing those things and just continually challenging myself to grow out of that.
Right. I even remember in that position, I think your first week was Halloween. And your office was doing a Wizard of Oz
It was
themed...
my second day. It was Halloween.
And the office was doing a Wizard of Oz themed Halloween party.
And I got selected to be a munchkin.
And you actually made me cut your hair into the shape of a munchkin hairstyle.
So it was like a mohawk, but not a true mohawk because I had like side hair.
A faux hawk.
I actually cut my hair, and everyone's like, what is wrong with this kid? I remember my immediate supervisor saying, like, not saying this, like several months after, like on your second day you did this, and I thought, what's wrong with this kid? But people remembered that, and people thought it was very bold to cut my actual hair for the Halloween costume. But I always shave my hair every 3 months anyway. Like,
I think part of challenging yourself when you step that far out of your comfort zone is just to be able to hold that confidence.
Right.
Because a lot of times you might be willing to try something bold, but then get it in your head, and the inner voice will start talking, and you'll get really nervous. So I don't know, especially in like that situation, how did you overcome that inner talk that might have been there, or did you have any?
Right. I mean, some of it's just the circumstance you find yourself. It's Halloween. You have some liberties there, but it's kind of building up to it. You kind of have to. You can't just go from the shyest kid in 8th grade to doing. I don't know, it's not that extraordinary, but doing something like that. You have to work your way. So like at headquarters level, dressing up like that. So like in prior years, we made these costumes. Of like superheroes. We kind of made them up. I had like an AOL screen name called Super SKB Man, and you had like Super Sun Girl, and we kind of dressed as our AOL screen names. It was just like a white costume with a yellow cape, and I would wear that to my previous lesser visibility position, and be the only one dressed up in the office. But I don't know. I had fun. I think people had fun making fun of me. But yeah, just things like building up. Like even last year, I dressed up as like a secret agent. I had like those clear earpieces in my ear, and I was the only one who was. And I had like sunglasses and a black suit, and I was the only one dressed up in the office. Mm-hmm. But just having fun and getting noticed.
It's not taking yourself too seriously.
Not taking yourself too seriously.
Especially with fun things like that.
Yeah. So people get the kid with you, and upper management sees you have the kid with you, and at work, in my current position, I was the only person going out on runs at lunch. So I would, I was usually wearing a collared shirt, but I would just go to the locker, go to the bathroom and change into my running clothes at lunchtime, and just go out for like a 2-4 mile run, and then return back to my desk and just work for 15 minutes, let my body cool down. But I'm going the hallways in my shorts and my t-shirt, sweating, beads of sweat rolling down my face, and I was the only one doing that. But I think my upper management really, I feel like, respected me for having the discipline to do that. And yes, it's kind of uncomfortable the first couple times you do it, where you're in this workplace environment where everyone's dressed up, very formal, and you're the guy sweating like a pig at his desk. Luckily, my building had a shower, so after 15 minutes cooling down on my desk, I would go take a shower. But after a few times of doing this, my boss's boss said, hey, I want to go for a run. So we went for a run together, and we had, a 30-minute one-on-one conversation. We did that a couple times, where we could talk, and it kind of developed that relationship. So Now he listens to the podcast, which is awesome. So if you're listening, sir, thank you for listening. And yeah, so just I feel like so many times these like actions of being bold or putting yourself out there reap so many rewards. Building that reputation of being a kind of a different thinker, a different type of person, a person of action, a person who's confident in themselves, who's willing to do things outside the norm. It really, I don't know. They see what I'm saying. It seems kind of trivial, but again, it's people start to recognize you. People start to know you, and again, it's not who you know; it's who knows you.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking a lot about different expressions of boldness and different ways you can show boldness. But I think one of the key things to keep a focus on is how do you determine what you want to be bold in? And I think it all stems from reflection, thinking about your life, thinking about what it is that you want to achieve. And once you have that goal in mind, now you have a reason and a motivation to try harder, to be more, and to challenge yourself, and to challenge whatever may be getting in your way from achieving that goal. So, I mean, to be bold without a purpose is kind of silly, and it can come off quite tiring to people. But to be bold for a purpose, striving towards a goal, is something that I think universally is admired, and that's something you can yourself hold on to when you're in those moments of discomfort, when you're going outside of your comfort zone and wondering why you did it. If you are holding on to a goal that gives you that purpose, it'll give you the strength to push through it and continue forward.
Yeah.
So I thought, we could talk a little bit about some steps you can make to be bold. Some of the things you can work on. If you take that first step, self-reflection, you figure out that goal, that visualization for what you want to achieve, where you want to go, and what you want to be perceived as. Then you need to look at what the actionizable steps are to get there. Once you identify those points, you can start to challenge yourself to make those little steps towards that goal. Is there anything else you'd add into that equation for helping yourself become bold? Because it isn't something that I think comes naturally and intuitively. We always want to take what is most comfortable to us, and usually it's the path of least resistance. It's what you know and what you're familiar with. So this is really stepping outside the box. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And it can be smaller goals. I remember when I first started in my new position, a year ago, I had an immediate goal to learn everybody's name at work. And whenever I pass them in the hallway, there's probably 60 people who work in the building. So learn every single person's name. Whenever I pass them in the hallway, I would say, "Hey, John. Hey, Joe." And I think that's so important. I did that with my first job in my first building, and I felt like that made me very comfortable with everyone very quickly. Use their name, they get to know your name, and
yeah, not just shuffling by, looking at the floor.
Right. Especially we have such a long hallway, so it's very awkward if you don't address people and just
greet each other, right?
Right. And so I mean, just think about things that just aren't going well in your life that you would like to change, and an uncomfortable action it will take to get there. And
yeah, I mean, even if it's something in terms of public speaking,
right.
You feel you want to get better at how you convey your messages to others. There is nothing wrong with writing out your thoughts, fleshing them out on paper and really trying to establish what you want to say ahead of time, and just read through it and prep yourself, because in the beginning, when you're not so experienced at stepping outside your comfort zone and speaking up or saying things, you could trip on your words and then cripple yourself in that moment. So writing something out can be incredibly helpful, and practicing that more and more it'll eventually come naturally and you won't need to write it anymore.
Right, just like when I was calling those, car owners, at first I needed a script, I needed line by line, but soon, I just needed bullet points, and soon I could just call right off the top of my head.
Right.
And, you get better and better, you get quicker and quicker, but you got to build towards it. It doesn't come in a day.
Right. I had similar experience too when we were first getting into real estate, and I was looking up houses and needing to call the realtors, and again up came that paralysis of picking up the phone and talking to someone who I felt probably knows a whole lot more about real estate than I do. And I would literally write out my questions word for word on a sheet of paper before I dialed the number. And now I could just call them and wing it because I've done it so many times.
Right. And the baby step for us there was, going to open houses where there was no pressure, where we didn't have to call anyone and we could just be one of the many people filtering through a house. And then, start going with one question here and one question there and just kind of learning it. And then, starting to call listing agents and ask some questions and see the property and just building up our confidence little by little.
Right. I mean, some other great programs are out there to help you overcome those fears too. Like you do Toastmasters at work. I know I did it in high school. You do it now as well.
So one of my big goals is to get more into public speaking. It's part of the reason I do the podcast here, is just to practice right now speaking to all of you who are listening and practice my own way of communicating with everyone. And it's been a big goal for a number of years now, just working on public speaking, and it's a reason I do many bold activities. Whenever people ask me to speak, I always try to say yes, just to practice that. And I've done very bold things, like applied to be on podcasts where I could do public speaking and also just spread the message. So a part of why I want to do public speaking is I feel like our journey that we've been on is pretty transformative and could help so many people. And I feel like to be a public speaker and to change people's lives, that's kind of my dream and what I'd love to do. And to come from a place where, being the shyest kid in 8th grade and being able to now speak in front of a huge audience. Last summer, or was it 2 summers ago, I got to speak in front of 200 people in a large conference. And that was amazing to me. I felt, I could have an impact on 200 people, all the listeners on the podcast now, to have that kind of impact. And, I kind of always dreamt of it, like back in 8th grade, like, oh, I have like all these great ideas in my head. I just wish I had the boldness to share them, but, having so much fear at that time. And, I felt like I had great ideas. I just wanted to communicate, but I didn't have the confidence to do it. And now kind of living that dream, living that goal, gives me that boldness, and doing it well. I think I'm doing it well, right, guys? Give me those 5 stars. We have 104 5-star reviews. Keep them coming. But yeah, just living out that dream and remembering back all that fear. And just kind of going for it fuels you. So as you kind of progress and do better, it fuels you to accelerate exponentially and get better and better and better.
What we're talking about here brings something to mind. We just finished watching the movie Free Solo about Alex Honnold, a National Geographic documentary about this guy who basically climbed the El Cap mountain in Yosemite without any ropes or anything. He just did it freehand, or I guess that's called solo climbing. And he said one line in the movie that just really struck me, and that line was that you face your fear because your goal demands it. And I remember him saying that line in the movie and being like, wow, it's so true. What other reason do you have to really challenge your fears? Nothing, unless you have a stronger goal that can, surpass the fears that you carry and push you through it. So this makes me think of that, public speaking, a means to an end, or perhaps just public speaking as the end. You have this goal now to get in front of people and to present your ideas properly. It's a goal that'll help you push through one of the greatest fears a lot of people have, which is public speaking. So like we said in the very beginning, knowing your goal, knowing your whys to why you want to do what you want to do is really what's going to help propel you towards boldness in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, and having that mindset of trying to become better at public speaking. I made this video. I want listening to so many Bigger Pockets episodes. I'm like, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can be bold enough to be one of those people who goes on the show with 100,000 listeners. And I was like, I'm going for it. So I recorded a video on my bicycle, and it was just all about myself, like a 6-minute video that I submitted to Brandon Turner, I think directly, like I Facebook messaged him or something. And I sent it off, and they were like, oh, this is great. And they had me on the show, and I was super nervous. And we were both on the show, episode 210, I think, the Bigger Pockets episode. And
I remember when you did that, and I was really quite taken aback that you took that initiative, because I felt like it wasn't really you. You were more keep your own thoughts to yourself, more introverted, and if you know someone very well, you would open up and share your thoughts on things. But to go off on a limb and reach out to actually go on a podcast, I was quite surprised. And then when they actually accepted it, again, I was surprised that you actually were willing to do it. It's a big step.
Yeah, but that led to like 10 more podcast interviews from there, and it's kind of snowballed into, and then now being very comfortable on the microphone, and a lot of that happened from like just recording little video snippets too, even before going live there. And even doing the podcast is easier than going live on stage. So joining Toastmasters, and actually this year I enrolled to be the vice president of Toastmasters at my chapter at work. And because of that, I got to speak to the whole workforce as the vice president, and that also just again, builds my reputation, builds my confidence as a public speaker. So just constantly growing that skill set that towards the goal I eventually have of becoming this motivational speaker that can really speak to young kids and college age children about their personal finances, and just structuring their life very intentionally to meet the goals, meet their desires, and really align with the values they have, and to be in alignment with the integrity they want for their lives. So that's what I'm passionate in. That's what I'm trying to build. I'm trying to do what others are not willing to do, so I'm capable to do what others can't do in the future. There's a quote like that, something like that. I think it's more elegant than I just rephrased it.
But I guess the bottom line we're trying to get here is just to push yourself forward through living boldly in whatever capacity that means to you.
Right.
For us, it may be public speaking. For others, it may be performing or doing all sorts of things, writing. There's so many different expressions of personal boldness. Free solo, rock climbing, boldness right there. Just living the life that not everyone else will live, because you have a passion and a goal and a drive that's going to carry you beyond the norm.
Yeah, that's how I want to live.
Yeah.
Not just tiptoeing through life just to arrive safely at death. It's another quote that I like.
Yes. So I hope that this episode brought some inspiration or brought some new thoughts to process through your mind about just really living life with a purpose, with an intention, and going out there and getting it done. Conquering your fears and living boldly. It's something that we aren't experts at yet. It's something that I think no one ever truly becomes an expert at. It's just something you work at perpetually throughout life. And the more you work at it, the better you get at it, the more fears that are conquered, and the more confident you become in who you are.
Well said. So with that, I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. And enjoy your week. Good luck.
And be bold.
Be bold. Godspeed, everyone.